The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. I can't believe we're starting exactly on time at 12 o'clock. This is all very exciting. I hope you guys are ready to hear all about SMO money, SMO problems, the what, why, and how of Service Management Office. We're very proud of that. We find ourselves very clever, so I hope you guys laughed a little bit. It's okay if you didn't. Anyway, I'm Lindsay. Thank you again so much for joining us today. I'm going to go over some housekeeping really quickly and then introduce Erica Flora, who's going to be going over the Service Management Office stuff with you this afternoon. First of all, if you guys have any questions or if you have any concerns if our audio or video goes out at some point, go ahead and type that into the chat box and I'll be monitoring that throughout. We'll hold the questions till the end. Erica's going to save about 10-15 minutes to go through those, so feel free to ask away. And yeah, otherwise, all of the slides, a video of the full session will be sent out via email following the session today. So no worries about taking notes or anything. This is there's a lot of really good notes in this one too. So look for that within the next 24, 48 hours. And that's all I got for housekeeping. So onward, Erica Flora is a principal at Beyond 20. She is an EIDL expert, PMP, and a PGMP. So she's got many legs to stand on when speaking about not only a service management office, but also a project management office, which you'll learn is often the basis for the service management office. She has been a project and program manager for much years. She's done a lot of enterprise level integrations with tools, just a lot of overseeing big projects up to and including PMOs and SMOs. She also takes improv, and I've been to one of her performances, and she's very, very funny. She's actually the creator of SMO Money, SMO Problems. Anyway, without further ado, I'll kick it over to Erica, who's going to tell you a little bit about us and what we do, and then get into the Service Management Office. Erica.
Great, thank you for that fantastic intro. Welcome to SMO Money, SMO Problems. So this is going to be our fun take on the Service Management Office, what it is, why you'd want one, how to build one that's great. For those of you that are first timers to our webinar, let's talk about Beyond 20. So the name Beyond 20 actually comes from a Gartner research study where they looked at when mission critical systems within organizations failed, what that root cause was. And what they found was really fascinating. Turns out things like software, hardware, natural disaster failures only account for 20% of mission critical failures. It's the people and the process stuff that account for the other 80%. And that's what we are passionate about. That's what we care about, is helping fix the people and the process stuff. And you'll find that as we talk about the Service Management Office, the people and the process stuff is what will make or break your success. So we help fix those kinds of things through training, through process design, through building out things like IT service catalogs. We often give a lot of guidance on not only how to build service management offices, but helping equip them so that they're successful within an organization, and we'll talk a bit more about that. For those of you that are PMP certified through PMI, this webinar will give you one PDU for attending because we are a global registered educational provider through PMI, and yeah, so that's that slide. Yeah, if you guys can hear me okay, and if you guys can see the slides okay, Lindsay's kind of waving at me like jumping up and down a bit from across the room, just making sure that you guys can hear me. So let me know if you guys can do that. If not, we can kind of retool things a little bit. And then when we publish this webinar, we'll cut all this madness out of it. Yeah, so if you could put it into the chat window, help Lindsay out, that'd be great. Lindsay, we got the go-ahead? We do not have the go-ahead. We are good. Okay, just joking around, guys. Okay, and gals, let's keep on moving. So next slide. All right, so here's today's agenda. We're going to talk about what the heck is an SMO, why would you want one, what does it stand for, what are the different ways that service management offices can look, and they may go under the name of an SMO. We have lots of customers that call them all different sorts of stuff, enterprise service center, ITSM, center of excellence, lots and lots of different names, but we'll talk about the different kind of forms, how they can vary from organization to organization, but what really they should all have in common. And then we'll talk about the stuff that goes wrong, the pitfalls, the challenges, the assumptions sometimes that we make in setting one up that turn out to not be so helpful. Then we'll walk through, kind of turn the pitfalls and challenges on their side and talk about, okay, how do you avoid those things? How do you need to start out right if you're trying to build a new service management office, or if you've got one that maybe has hit some snags in the road, and how do you turn things around a little bit and make sure that you're successful? All right, so let's start out with what. So it stands for Service Management Office. It's been patterned after this concept of a project management office. So project management offices were a big trend starting about maybe 10 years ago, and they've seen some rises and some falls and some rises again, and SMOs are really, this idea has been copied, I don't know, has been patterned after that, and I would say probably within the last 2 years I've started to see a rise in people talking about this idea of a service management office or something similarly named. Some of the benefits behind doing that is having some sort of an SMO structure within an organization really shows that IT is committed to IT service management. It shows that leaders are willing to invest in this ITSM and ITIL craziness, and it's more than just a flash in the pan. So it really shows outward commitment to IT service management. It also helps kind of centralize and focus all of your improvement efforts, whether they be improvements in processes or people through training or tools, and it just helps make sure that that's all coordinated in a focused fashion. I'm just looking at my slide and reading the words when all else fails. And then it also helps increase consistency across the organization. So what I mean by that is what happens a lot of times with process improvement is people do this on an ad hoc basis, and you get all different kinds of results. And so having an SMO, having some sort of centralized, whether it be center of excellence or what have you, it helps promote consistency across the organization and across the enterprise. With that said, is when budgets get tight, where I've seen the rise and the fall of this idea of having a PMO, the same thing can happen, and the same thing has happened with SMOs. When people are looking for what to cut out of an organization and they don't see the value in having a service management office, then that's the first thing that gets cut. And then they say, so glad that's over, Smover. Smover? Is that how we say that, Lindsay? Okay, so glad that's Smover. All right, so different forms of SMO. So depending on the organization that you look at, these can look so different. They can be the role of one person, the part-time role of one person. It can be the full-time role of one person. It can be a formal team of people. It can also have very little control within the organization, or it can have a lot of control within the organization. On the side of less control, it might start out with just a place where you can go and find really good templates for ITSM improvements. So like, let's say you have a SharePoint page that says, here's where you go to get all of your RACI models. If you're going to be creating, let's say, an ITIL process, here's where you would go to get process documentation. Here's where maybe job descriptions are, or other kinds of things like that. Just having a central place where you can share knowledge, you can collaborate, you can get good templates that will be helpful. Your SMO can also serve as a place of central coordination for communication around IT service management, for training around best practice like ITIL, like Scrum, like project management best practice, whatever that may be in support of the overarching IT organization. On the higher end in terms of control, it could be that your SMO has control over approvals or finances for all of your IT service management projects or programs. They could be the administrators on any IT service management tools that you have. What's really important, though, is that regardless of the form that your SMO takes, it needs to have the right vision. And if you look at the last bullet and what's in orange here, the whole goal of an SMO should be to elevate what you're doing in IT service management and to make sure that your IT service management efforts bring positive, measurable results to the organization. So your vision should include something along the lines of, we want to increase the success of what we're doing in IT service management across our company, across our agency, across the enterprise. At the end of the day, the whole reason to undertake the effort of building one of these forms of an SMO is to get better at what we're doing within IT. So if you remember nothing else from this webinar, and there's some good stuff later, so don't just turn your brain off just yet and start multitasking. But this really is where you want to make sure that your SMO focuses, and you keep that in mind at all times, that you want to bring value to the organization, and that's got to be clearly communicated, and we'll talk about when you actually set one up. That's one of the steps you want to make sure that you go through, is clearly articulating and communicating out that vision. All right, so where do we go wrong when we do this kind of stuff? The two biggest things that I see is often SMOs that hit a snag or end up not working out within an organization is having a clear lack of vision. And clearly, they may even have that vision, but they're not necessarily doing a good job of communicating that out, or it's gotten lost along the way. But you've got to figure out, why do we need to be doing this? And why we set up or run an SMO, why we set up or we run an SMO within an organization needs to be based on one of two things. And I think it really gets to the core of why we do IT service management in the first place. It has to achieve a goal or chase an opportunity that is real, that we might miss out on otherwise. Helps us avoid some sort of danger, some real peril that we're facing within the organization. And if we don't take the time to think through that, our SMO is going to be in danger of going away. And when that kind of thing happens, I really hate to see that happen, because it puts a bad taste in people's mouths when it comes to IT service management. And it prevents, so I'm hearing real quick, sorry to interrupt my own self. It sounds like audio is going in and out, so I'm going to try something that hopefully will help it, and just unplug my headset here real quick. And let me know if you guys can hear me better. Okay, so is this better or worse? Lindsay, what do you think? Thumb up, thumb down? I can keep talking if that would be. It's worse. Okay, fantastic. Let's go back to plugging that back in. All right, well, sometimes you try things and they get better, and in this case, not so much. All right, we're going to swap out for new headphones. All right, please hold. Sorry, everyone. Okay, take 5. Lindsay, any better? Any worse? We don't know. Okay, so I'll keep going, and I would say put in the chat window if you can hear me better, or if it's gotten worse, let Lindsay know, and she will. She gave me 2 thumbs up, so that's pretty good. She has 3 thumbs, which is weird, but so yeah, you hate to see an SMO endeavor fail, because not only is it discouraging for the folks that have put the time and the effort into helping to build a service management office, but organizationally, it puts a bad taste in people's mouth when it comes to IT service management in general, and it actually prevents any good work that you hope to do in the future. And I've seen organizations where IT service management has become a 4-letter word. Well, it is a 4-letter word, but become something that people see negatively, and then you're forced to what I call hide the peas in the potatoes, where you can't talk, don't talk about IT service management. You have to call it something different, like just continual improvement, because people have decided that it didn't work, it's not helpful, and so it just does you a disservice. The other thing that I see go wrong a lot of times is folks aren't realistic about what they can actually achieve, and they're not good about measuring and communicating out progress, success, or return on investment. And what ends up happening a lot of times is when you start an IT service management endeavor, it usually starts because people have enthusiasm around it, and they see the real value that certain things can bring, like having a good way to do configuration management and troubleshooting, or to have a clear catalog for customers that customers can interact with on a self-help portal or something like that. Gets people excited, and when you start to see the value of it, people get really enthusiastic, and unfortunately that's usually at the beginning. Everyone's like, yay, let's do this, and then you check back 3 months, 6 months later, and all that enthusiasm has left. And a lot of times it's because we don't go back and communicate our successes and those things that we've done, and we've a lot of times made some really good progress. It's just not everyone knows about it, or we can't measure it. So that's really, I think, up front, but then also later on we kind of shoot ourselves in the foot sometimes with our service management offices. So after all that bad news, let's talk about how you make sure this isn't you, or if this has been you, how to turn this around and bring some success to the organization. All right, first and foremost, like I said before, nobody is going to care if you are not trying to reach a goal, seize an opportunity, or get rid of something really painful in your organization. So you have to start out with understanding what your organization's goals and challenges are first. You can do this through an informal assessment. You can also do this through a formal assessment. There are some advantages for getting outside help, and of course take this with a grain of salt because we provide a lot of outside help, but we've had a lot of customers say, I've been beating my head against the wall, I keep telling leadership we need to address these 5 things. Can someone else from the outside come in and just shine a light into some of these places? It's amazing how sometimes you can be saying something over and over again, and then an outside consultant comes in and says things, and then leadership goes, oh, is that so? We should do that. So sometimes getting some outside help can help give you more of a voice and document some of these goals and challenges and areas where the organization needs to improve. But you've got to understand current state and the why we have to change first. Then you can start creating a plan around the who, the what, the where, the when, the how much is all this stuff going to cost, and I would say most importantly, the why are we undertaking this. One of the things I would say is if you don't have a really compelling why, don't do this. If your answer is, well, because we should, or because, well, Beyond 20 came in and told us it was a good idea, or what really makes me want to just throw up in my own mouth is because ITIL says we should, which, by the way, ITIL does not say you should set up a service management office. That's not a good enough reason. It's got to be one of the two. What are we going to solve, or what are we going to seize that will help us as an organization? You have to show ROI. Leadership is getting just a barrage of distractions and fires, and they get really fragmented. And if you're going to come to them with this idea of an SMO, there's got to be the what's in it for this organization. How am I going to be able to get a return on investment for going down this path? Because it can involve cost. It can involve cost of, hey, we need a new IT service management platform, or hey, we need some additional staff to do this. If you're not even asking for hard dollars, what you're asking for is an effort that's going to take away from other high priority projects or programs, and that has an opportunity cost. So make sure that that's solid. And I'll tell you, when I was a young and naive project manager like 10, 15 years ago, I was trying to set up my company's first PMO, and I pitched my VP on this idea of a project management office. And so I did a ton of research, and I came up with here's why it's important to have one, here's why other organizations have one, here's how it's helped other organizations. And I showed him all this stuff, and he was like, yeah, this is great, mom and apple pie kind of stuff. I don't get it. Why do we need one here? And when I first heard that, I was really frustrated. But then I started realizing it's because I really hadn't answered the question of why here, why now, why can we no longer wait on this? What's the urgency? And that's going to be specific to our own organization. And I can, say things like, oh, it's helped all these other companies save a ton of money and do this, that, and the other. But if I don't show how I think it's going to really benefit our own organization, it's going to go on deaf ears. It totally is. So you need to start out by knowing the cost of setting up an SMO, what that resource time is going to look like, what training is going to look like, what consulting fees are going to look like, or tool costs, or that kind of thing, and show with data what you expect the cost and the benefit to be. And hopefully the benefits outweigh the cost. Otherwise, that's not going to be very helpful to you. What else? Make sure that leadership is on board, that they get the why, they understand it, they understand the urgency. And then the next step I would say is earn yourself some street cred. If you think that the SMO is going to save the organization time, or you're going to be able to move away from low value activities or automate things or whatever that may be, earn some street cred and actually go back and prove it and say, okay, this is what I think we were going to get out of an SMO, but have some hard data. Pick a project, pick something that's really painful for folks, pick the thing that is just visibly annoying to everyone, pick that, say, all right, we're going to fix that, measure before, measure after, come back with results and say, here's this one thing that we can show that worked, and that will help you drive future successes, future improvement. Also, you want to make sure that you stay organized, because once people start seeing that having a service management office, having some sort of central control around how we do service management, you're going to run into lots of other things that you can fix. And so having a really good CSI register can help you, and CSI stands for Continual Service Improvement Register. We've got another blog coming up in the next couple of weeks around CSI registers and what they should look like and how you would use them and how they can help you, but just kind of putting it out there. We also, while I'm talking about blog articles, we're going to be putting up, we wrote a blog article this week around how to build a lasting, impactful service management office, and we'll send that out to all the attendees here today. We'll send you guys a link as soon as we get it, put the finishing touches on and get that out, but that will happen later today. So yeah, so make sure that you're organized, that you're capturing all those things that can be improved. You're taking the time to prioritize the stuff that is going to be most impactful to improve and just work your way through it. That CSI register has some columns in there too that will help you capture the success that you've had, so that you can, whether it be at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, that you can show, hey, here's what our efforts have meant to the organization. So it's not just say, hey, I think we're getting better, you can actually give some real numbers to it. Some other things just to kind of expand on what I've been saying with the, before we go forward to that next slide, going back to your plan around the who, the what, the where, the when, the how much, the why. I would say, with any good plan, you've got to define that. So start out and just get a simple sheet of paper. If you've got a project plan template, that's also really helpful. And just start with the who. Who's going to own the service management office? Who is this going to report to? Who's going to report to the SMO? If we decide at some point that we want, let's say, all of our ITIL process owners to report into the SMO, or even just dotted line report into the SMO, how's that going to happen? As this SMO grows, let's say we're successful and we add more people to this team, what kinds of things are we going to be looking for? Is it soft skills? Is it hard skills? How would we build one out in terms of the people side of it? Who would we direct, or who would we report to? So what I mean by that is, would the SMO report directly to the CIO? If they don't report to the head of IT, how are they going to interact with the head of IT or the leadership team within IT? Because what an SMO is going to be doing can impact all sides of the organization. So you want to really flesh out the who. The what is, what will they be doing? What is the scope of it? Is this a small scope? Is this a large scope? Where do the boundaries of the SMO end? And what are those interfaces look like? Speaking more to the what, some of these enterprise-wide IT service management concepts that organizations struggle with might be good to stick under the purview of an SMO, like management of your IT service portfolio, or maybe it's communication or even negotiation of your service level agreements, or management of your suppliers. It can be lots of different things that might make sense to put under the purview of an SMO. So really start thinking about, okay, what will they be doing? How will they be reporting information? So make sure that that's solid. And then the where is, where will they sit? Where will this information go? I'm kind of making the where up. Yeah, there might be some other things that you guys think about around the where. Where will we store documentation? Where will people go to contact the SMO? Where will improvements be captured? All that good stuff. The when, how often will we report out? When will we reassess how we're doing? That kind of stuff. How much this is going to cost, definitely want to make sure that that's in there. And then the why, and come up with things that are not pie in the sky, like we want to build the most amazing SMO service provider organization, because what does that mean? If it's things like we want to chase down this one opportunity that we see as an organization, we want to change the perception that we have with our customers. We want to, I don't know, insert lots of ideas here. I mean, you guys know your own organizations. You know the challenges that you guys are experiencing and what needs to be solved, what will get people's attention if you could solve. Make sure that that's in there. If you're losing money, like we have one customer that's a managed service provider, and they were finding that they were losing customers because they weren't communicating out to them well enough. They weren't doing certain things that were showing their own value. And so if there's things that you can point to, if there's recent issues that have gone on, if you can tackle those and include those in the why, that's also really, really helpful. Awesome. So as far as training and resources go, if you guys have not taken a foundations class, that will teach you about all of the stuff that a service management office needs to care about. If you have anyone speaking to who should be on your SMO, you definitely want folks that have at least a minimum level of certification so that they can speak the language across the organization and everyone's using the same terminology. And we've got some coming up in our Phoenix office, our Fairfax office, our downtown DC office. For those of you that are PMP certified that are on this webinar, you get 24 PDUs for attending, and you pay one price, you take the class, you get the exam, and if you don't pass the exam, we actually eat the cost of any and all retakes. So if IT service management is a path that you're interested in going down, or you're going to be involved in helping to build some sort of service management office, highly recommend at least Foundations certification. There's also a follow-on class that's brand new called Practitioner. So for those of you that are Foundation certified, ITIL Practitioner is a 2-day next step class to Foundations. Also really worthwhile because it speaks a lot to project management concepts and how to best implement a lot of this stuff. So has a lot of really great tools for anyone that's going to be involved in a service management office. And then also, if you go to our blog, it's not up there yet, but it will be shortly, just blog.beyond20.com. There is going to be an SMO blog. There's also lots of other blog posts on there, gosh, probably close to about 100 on all different sorts of topics, whether it be Agile or DevOps or project management or IT service management. There's just a ton of stuff. So definitely worth checking out. Cool. So that's all the pre-prepared stuff that I have for you guys. Let's go ahead and open it up to questions. I know Lindsay's going to be asking. Lindsay, are you asking me questions, or I'm just reading out what you send me? I'm reading. Okay. Yes, I took Lindsay's mic, so by default, I'm going to be doing both. So awesome. Cool. So first question is, does an SMO work with small companies? Is it even worth it? You know, I tend to see them in larger organizations just because there's a lot more complexity there, and it's helpful to have that central coordination. But you know, in small companies, it's all about scaling. So the same thing is true with just IT service management in general. If you are an IT department of one, then you are the SMO and you're all of IT and you're everything all wrapped up in one. But I would say that shouldn't preclude you from doing some of these things. What I oftentimes see in medium-sized or large companies is that they grew. Some of our customers have grown very quickly, and they didn't take the time to properly build in some basic structure and best practice, and now they're finding that they're dealing with a lot of challenges because they didn't start out right. And so when you're small, you have a really good opportunity to improve your processes internally, put some good tool sets in place, get your people some good training now so that as you guys grow and scale, you can add to. But the SMO of a small organization is going to look very different than an SMO of a large organization. It's usually the role of one person, and you just want to make sure that you set yourself up for success later. So, yep, it absolutely can work. It's just going to look very different. Ooh, what does a day in the life of an SMO look like? Oh, that's such a good question. So what I always tell people is think of it as a balance between people, process, and tools. So a day in the life of somebody in the SMO is probably going to be focused on all three of those things. And looking for ways to improve the organization in one of those three areas, be implementing projects to address improvements in one of those three areas, but a day in the life can look very different. It can be rolling out, let's say, an IT service management training to folks, or helping identify requirements for, implement, and phase out an IT service management platform. It can be creating reporting for leadership. What else? Let me think on that some more. Maybe there's a blog article there. I feel like there might be a blog article there. Yeah. Hopefully, it's an exciting place to be. It's not going to be, you know, unfortunately, in real life, I've seen some organizations where they don't know what to do with someone, so they say, well, let's just have them head up a center of excellence. Hopefully, having a center of excellence or an SMO is actually a pretty exciting place to be within the organization, because you're bringing about change. You're bringing about improvements. You're working with lots of different teams to figure out, you know, how you can get rid of their problems and how you can make life better. You might be, you know, doing surveys of customers to understand what they need from IT, whether IT is meeting their needs or not. So, you know, potentially taking on the role of traditionally what's been like a business relationship manager. So it really just depends. It depends on how you've got it set up within your organization, but hopefully it's a really fun job to have. So does an SMO require a significant budget? I would say it doesn't have to. It really doesn't have to. Use what you've got. That actually brings up another great point. It's in the blog article, but I didn't talk about it as part of the webinar here, is that invariably in every organization, there are pockets of great stuff. There are groups within IT that are doing fantastic stuff, and so search those things out. Don't try to recreate the wheel and say, okay, well, we have to start out with nothing, you know, let's throw everything out. There are definitely groups that are doing pieces of stuff that you can build on. So I would say start there. Start with the budget that you have. Even if that budget is zero, you can be pretty scrappy and find ways to solve problems. And then, you know, request budget. But when you're requesting budget, make sure that you have a solid plan for how you're going to use that money. I feel like that's another great blog article, how to build an SMO on like $1 per day budget. All right, other question, what are some metrics to help get leadership on board? Cost savings, cost savings, cost savings. It's super helpful. Some of the stuff you're gonna have, I mean, in order to win leadership over, some of it is just gonna be a best guess. But start out that first project capturing data, even if it's capturing it on a pen and paper. So, for example, I can tell you there's one case study of a customer, and I'm happy to send you guys. I'm happy to send you guys a link to this case study that Lindsay will have to post on our website super fast, which I don't think is up there yet. But one of our customers, I'll kind of brag on them a little bit. Velasys, they implemented an IT service management tool, and what they actually found was just in the amount of time that they saved in low quality activities, they were able to more than pay for that tool within the first year. So, and I'm totally making these numbers up. You'll have to read the case study and see what it was, but it was something along the lines of they were spending 20 hours a week on this one particular task, and when they automated that task, I think it took them like 20 minutes. So that person's time, you know, if you were to take their time and multiply it by, let's say, a blended rate for a resource at that level, you could then show, okay, if we could save this much time, here's how much it means to the organization in terms of productivity, and here's where we can better use that time. So money, money, money will always get the ear of leadership, because we're always looking for ways to do more with less. All right, next question. Would it be accurate to say that a PMO is project-oriented, whereas the SMO is more operations and management related, more of an ongoing operations support and service improvement on a day-to-day basis? That is a great question. So there's a lot of misconceptions around what IT service management is about, and it's kind of gotten this rap that it's all about operations, and it's bigger than that. It's it's the difference between a service and a project. A project, has a beginning and end, and a project team is going to oversee that. And so a PMO would manage all the projects, all the programs that are underway. A service management office looks at it from a service perspective. So there still may be projects and programs within an SMO, but it's for IT services, which have a lot longer shelf life than a project. So the best way I can explain it is you might have a service that underneath it has multiple projects. You might have a project that has underneath it multiple services. I'll also make sure to send you guys a link. There's one that's called something around how to build out your IT service catalog, and it talks through in a little bit more detail around the difference between what a PMO would do versus actually, I totally lied to you. It's not the difference between a PMO and an SMO. It's the difference between what is a project versus what is a service, and I think that's an important distinction to clarify, and one that you'll have to definitely take to leadership around. Here's what the PMO is going to do versus here's what the SMO is going to do, and how those two are going to coordinate and collaborate and work together, because you will definitely need to work together. If you've already got a PMO, you don't want to be stomping on what one another is doing, and you want that to be very clear. One thing that I would also recommend is that you create what's called a RACI chart or RACI model. It stands for who's responsible, who's accountable, who do we need to consult with, and who needs to be informed. And if you can show the interaction between the SMO and PMO and bring clarity to that, that's going to be really helpful. And to go back to the question, your SMO will oversee ongoing operations, but it will oversee a lot more potentially than that. It can oversee things all the way back from strategy into design, which is going to have a big overlap with what the PMO is doing, to how we transition and release services into operation. It will certainly have a big piece in operation, but it'll also have a piece around how do we improve as a service provider. So yeah, you're definitely going to face, if you've got a PMO, you're definitely going to face a lot of confusion and like, how is this different? So make sure that you have a good understanding of the difference between a project and a service, and how you want your SMO to play well with and add value to what you're doing already in a PMO. And I have a note here around change corporate culture. Is that a question? Sounds like that might be a question. If you could clarify what the question is. I certainly think an SMO can help change the corporate culture, absolutely. But yeah, I'll give you guys a quick second, maybe if you want to formulate. Could I get it in the form of a question? That would be fantastic. Yeah, if you guys want to send that question later on, that's totally fine. Or maybe it was like a, yay, change corporate culture. Maybe it was an exclamation point. So yeah, I can maybe talk on that a little bit. I think the way that you change corporate culture, everyone, well, I'm just going to say a bunch of things top of mind. I think that when any organization is trying to change it, it does come down to culture. And we as consultants can very quickly see whether or not a service management office or IT service management improvement or project management improvement or any of this stuff is going to really take hold in an organization and be successful. And it does really come down to culture. You can tell that pretty quickly in an organization. If leadership is open to making improvements, if they realize that, hey, we have a problem that we have to solve and let's work together to figure out how to improve it, those types of changes within organizations tend to be a lot more successful. I would say in your plan to leadership, if you're trying to build an SMO, one of the things that you have to ask for are the resources that you need, because a lot of times I'll see like leadership will be like, yeah, we're going to do this IT service management thing, or we're going to improve how successful our projects are, and then they kind of direct the people, okay, go off and make it happen, but they don't give them the time, the resources, the money, the people that they need to make it successful. I would say ask for those things. Tell leadership, okay, great, I understand that you're excited now about what we're trying to do, but here's what I need. Here's what we as a team need. Otherwise, this will fail, and here's the impact if we fall on our faces. And I don't know that enough people say that to leadership. I think a lot of times it's easy to just say, oh, leadership isn't giving us what we need. Go to leadership and build a case for exactly what you need and why you need it. In order to change that organization. And you'll find that when behaviors within an organization change, the whole culture will change. And what seemed like a pain for people to do previously will just become the new way of working. And it is possible to change the culture. You just have to make sure that leadership knows what's involved, and they're ready to give those things that are involved and to really be an active part of what you're trying to do. I would say the other thing too, I'm just kind of looking at my notes here, as you build out your SMO, find people that are excited to be on the SMO. I find that when people are voluntold to do something, you have a lot less success around it. So find people that are excited, that want to change how the organization works, that have good ideas and that bring enthusiasm to it, because you really do want this to be, if you're going to undertake the effort, you want it to be successful. You want people to be excited about it. So find people that are excited about it and get them on board. You guys had some really good questions. You made me think. And hopefully this has been of value to you guys. We will send out, like Lindsay said before, we'll send out the slides. We'll send a blog article that accompanies this. And if you guys have other questions, ideas, blog articles you'd like to see written, let us know. We're constantly looking for ideas on ways to share our knowledge, to create content that's valuable, that can help solve some problems for you guys as well. All right, so if there's no more questions, thank you very much. Have a wonderful afternoon.